I only meant to share an ordinary box of fries. But now she roars if anyone dares to come near me. Can a single French fry force humans and aliens to become allies? And what happens when an underground force initiates a plot to destroy the entire space station? Jace Morgan navigated through the crowded pathways of Xeno Bazaar, his muscular frame weaving between the diverse array of life forms that populated Proxima Station. The cacophony of alien music pulsated through the air, mingling with the exotic aromas from dozens of food stalls. He brushed his shaggy brown hair from his eyes, adjusting the multiple pockets of his utility vest over a well-worn blue t-shirt. The familiar scent of fried potatoes drew him toward a small stall run by a four-armed Denabian. Jace's stomach rumbled as he approached. Being a human contractor in this distant corner of the galaxy often meant going weeks without a taste of home. "1 box of fries," he told the vendor. "Extra salt. Real potatoes from Earth." The Denabian nodded, 2 of its arms working the fryer, while another counted out his credits. Jace watched as the golden strips were scooped into a biodegradable container, the steam carrying that unmistakable earthy aroma that reminded him of home. As he turned away, package in hand, something caught his eye: a tall, feline figure standing motionless amidst the flowing crowd. A Philidian. Her blue fur gleamed under the bazaar's artificial lights, orange eyes scanning the crowd with predatory intensity. She wore dark leather combat attire, interwoven with metallic threads, the hallmark of a warrior culture. Unlike the bustling creatures around her, she moved with calculated precision, her gaze suddenly locking onto Jace. Finding a relatively quiet spot near a decorative fountain, Jace sat down to enjoy his fries. He couldn't help noticing the Philidian again, now standing at the edge of the food court, her gaze drifting between the various vendors. Her posture was rigid, but Jace recognized the subtle signs. She was hungry. After a moment's hesitation, he held out the box of fries toward her. "Want one?" The Philidian's ears flicked forward in surprise. She approached cautiously, her movements fluid and silent despite the crowd. Up close, Jace could see the intricate patterns in her blue fur and the depth of her orange eyes. She hesitated, then reached out with long, clawed fingers to select a single fry. The transformation was immediate. As she tasted it, her facial features softened, and a sound, somewhere between a purr and a moan, escaped her throat. Her eyes widened, then half-closed in pleasure. The moment was shattered when a bulky Taurian merchant accidentally bumped against Jace, knocking several fries to the ground. Before Jace could even react, the Philidian lunged forward, fangs bared, emitting a terrifying roar that stopped all nearby activity. The Taurian stumbled backward, arms raised in submission, before scurrying away. The air around them had changed. Every creature within 20 feet was staring, some backing away, others frozen in place. The Philidian straightened, her eyes never leaving Jace. "What was that about?" Jace whispered, painfully aware of the attention they were attracting. "You have given me food," she replied, her voice a low, melodic rumble. "By Philidian law, I now owe you a life debt. I will protect you until the debt is repaid." Jace blinked. "For a French fry?" "The sharing of sustenance is sacred," she stated simply, as if this explained everything. Jace looked around at the now wary crowd. "Look, I appreciate the sentiment, but on Earth, sharing food doesn't mean this. Can we discuss this somewhere less public?" The Philidian nodded once, falling into step beside him as they made their way through the bazaar. Jace was acutely aware of how others gave them a wide berth, especially when the Philidian growled at anyone who came too close to him. "You have to stop doing that," Jace muttered. "We're going to cause a diplomatic incident." The Philidian looked confused, but remained silent as they navigated through the station's corridors. "We need a translator," Jace decided, changing direction toward a small shop tucked away in a corner of the bazaar. Inside, An elderly Vexillian with 6 eyes greeted them, his wrinkled face creasing further when he saw the Philidian. "Temporary neural translator," Jace requested. "Something compatible with Philidian speech patterns." The Vexillian nodded, retrieving a small disc from behind the counter. "Place behind ear," he instructed, demonstrating the position. Two-way translation. Good for 48 hours. Jace winced at the price, but paid nonetheless. Once the disc was in place against the Philidian's skin, hidden beneath her fur, she blinked several times as the device synced with her neural pathways. "Can you understand me better now?" Jace asked. "Yes," she replied. Her voice now translated into clearer standard. "I am Kira of the Night Shadow Pride, 3rd rank warrior. I'm Jace Morgan, independent contractor." He guided her back into the corridor. "Now, about this life debt. You provided me with sustenance when I had none," Kira explained. "According to our laws, I now owe you my protection until the debt is balanced." "It was just a box of fries," Jace protested. "Not a life-saving meal." "The value is not measured by your standards but by mine," she replied firmly. "I was hungry. You shared without obligation. The debt exists." Jace ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "Look, I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't need a bodyguard. I've managed just fine on my own for years." "The debt must be honored," Kira insisted. "If I fail in this, I will lose honor among my people." Realizing he wasn't going to win this argument, Jace sighed. "Fine, but we need some ground rules. First, no growling at random people. Second, you need to learn human customs if you're going to follow me around. This station has strict regulations about threatening behavior." Kira considered this, then nodded reluctantly. "I will attempt to restrain my protective instincts, but you must teach me these human customs." "Deal," Jace said, extending his hand. When Kira simply stared at it, he demonstrated the handshake with an invisible partner. "It's a human greeting. No claws." Kira cautiously extended her hand, and they shook briefly. Her grip was strong, her palm covered in short, velvety fur. "If we're going to be allies," Jace said, choosing his words carefully, "I should at least know more about you. What brings a Philidian warrior to Proxima Station?" Kira's expression remained neutral. "I travel. I observe. I survive." "Not big on conversation, are you? Words are used when necessary. Actions speak with more clarity." As they walked back toward the residential sectors, Jace's communicator buzzed. A message from a potential client. Urgent delivery request to Helios Colony. Double the standard rate for completion within 48 hours. "Looks like I've got work," he muttered, skimming the details. The package was waiting at Storage Unit 342, already cleared through customs. Something about the urgency made him suspicious, but the payment would cover his docking fees for 3 months. "Is something wrong?" Kira asked, noticing his hesitation. "Just a job that seems too good to be true," Jace replied. "But sometimes a lonely man has to make calculated risks." "I sense deception," Kira said, her orange eyes narrowing. "This feels wrong." "Only one way to find out," Jace shrugged, changing direction toward the storage sectors. "Let's go check it out." The corridors grew less crowded as they approached Storage Unit 342. Jace noted the conspicuous absence of security cameras and the dimly lit passageway, perfect for an ambush. His instincts were screaming at him now, but curiosity pushed him forward. The storage unit's access panel glowed green as Jace approached, recognizing his credentials. The door slid open to reveal a small, metallic box exactly as described in the job details. Kira entered first, her nostrils flaring. "There's something wrong with the scent," she whispered. "I detect explosive compounds, and something biological." Before Jace could respond, movement flickered in his peripheral vision. 3 figures emerged from behind storage containers, 2 armed with neural disruptors, and a third, a scarred human Jace recognized immediately. "Decker," Jace growled. "Should have known. Morgan, the scarred man replied with a cold smile. Always sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. The two armed figures raised their weapons. But Kira was already moving. With a speed that blurred the air around her, she lunged at the nearest attacker. Her claws extended in mid-leap, slashing across the neural disruptor and rendering it useless before her opponent could fire. A second later, she had the attacker pinned, his weapon skittering across the floor. The second assailant managed to fire, but Kira twisted away, the neural pulse grazing her shoulder. She growled, a deep, bone-chilling sound, and sprang forward, knocking him unconscious with a precise strike to the head. Meanwhile, Jace had closed the distance to Decker, who had drawn a vibro knife. They circled each other, Decker slashing the air between them. The director sends her regards, Decker sneered. She's very interested in your new friend. Tell your director I'm not easily manipulated, Jace replied, dodging a thrust and countering with a quick jab to Decker's ribs. Decker staggered back, then lunged again. This time, Jace caught his wrist, twisting until the knife clattered to the floor. A swift uppercut sent Decker sprawling. With all three attackers neutralized, Jace turned his attention to the package. Opening it carefully, he found what he'd suspected, a biological weapon disguised as a legitimate shipment, rigged with a pressure-sensitive detonator. Proximity mine, he muttered, carefully disarming the device. And some kind of bioweapon. They wanted me to transport this to Helios Colony. A trap, Kira observed, binding the unconscious attackers with cords she'd found in the storage unit. More than that, Jace replied. They wanted to frame me as a bioterrorist. He secured the neutralized weapon in a containment field. We'll leave Decker for station security. The others are just hired muscle. As they left the storage unit, Jace activated his communicator. Anonymous tip to security, he dictated. 3 suspects detained in Storage Unit 342. Connection to bioweapon smuggling. He turned to Decker's unconscious form. Tell the director that Jace Morgan won't be fooled twice. They returned to Jace's small apartment in a less prestigious section of the station. The cramped space was utilitarian but clean, with a few personal touches. A small plant from Earth, some books, a vintage star chart on the wall. We've stirred up something big, Jace said, securing the door behind them. Someone with serious resources wants me out of the picture. Who is this director? Kira asked, her orange eyes reflecting the room's dim lighting. I don't know, Jace admitted, but we need to find out before they try again. He sank into a chair, suddenly exhausted. We need information. Where do we find such information? Kira asked, remaining standing, her posture alert despite the recent combat. There's a place called Club Paradox, Jace replied. Upper levels. It caters to the station's elite, diplomats, corporate executives, information brokers. If anyone knows about this director, we'll find them there. When do we go? Kira's tail swished with anticipation. Tomorrow night, Jace decided. But we'll need to blend in. You can't exactly walk in there looking like a warrior on the hunt. Kira's ears flattened slightly. What do you suggest? A change of appearance, Jace said, studying her. Something that makes you look more like an exotic dignitary than a combatant. The next evening, Jace rummaged through his limited wardrobe, while Kira watched with curiosity. Here, he said, pulling out a sleek, gray outfit. This might work. It's from a diplomatic function I had to attend last year. Kira took the garment, examining it dubiously. It has no armor. That's the point, Jace explained. Where we're going, the battle is fought with words and appearances, not claws. While Kira changed in the small bathroom, Jace put on his own formal attire, a deep blue jacket over a simple black shirt. When Kira emerged, he was momentarily taken aback. The elegant outfit transformed her from warrior to aristocrat, the silvery material complementing her blue fur. You'll need to keep your claws retracted, Jace advised. And try to soften your voice. Remember, We're there to gather information, not to intimidate. I understand, Kira nodded, practicing a more gentle gait. I will observe and learn. They made their way to the upper levels of the station, where the corridors widened and the lighting grew more sophisticated. Jace was acutely aware of the socio-economic divide between these pristine passages and the utilitarian sectors he typically frequented. Club Paradox occupied a prime location with a spectacular view of the stars through a massive viewport. Inside, the atmosphere was subdued yet exclusive. Bioluminescent decorations cast soft, shifting patterns across smooth surfaces. A modified gravity field allowed patrons to drift gently above the floor if they chose, creating an ethereal dance of floating bodies. Jace guided Kira to the bar, where a human bartender in immaculate attire greeted them with a practiced smile. "Amber Classic for me," Jace ordered, then gestured to Kira. "And a Stellar Haze for my companion." The bartender prepared their drinks with flourish, sliding the luminescent blue cocktail toward Kira. She sniffed it cautiously, before taking a small sip. Her eyes widened slightly. "It tastes like starlight," she murmured, genuinely surprised. Jace smiled, scanning the room as they sipped their drinks. "There she is," he whispered, nodding toward a woman in a silver dress conversing with a Vexillian ambassador. "Lara Voss, ex-intelligence operative, now the most connected information broker on the station. If anyone knows about this director, it's her." They watched as Lara skillfully navigated the social currents, spending a few minutes with each important guest before moving on. Kira's tail twitched impatiently beneath her outfit. "Remember," Jace cautioned, "no growling, no sudden movements. Let me do the talking." Kira nodded, straightening her posture to mimic the elegant patrons around them. 20 minutes later, Lara approached the bar, signaling the bartender for her usual drink. Her gaze drifted over Jace and Kira, then returned, a flicker of recognition in her eyes. "Jace Morgan," she said, her voice professional but warm. "It's been a while." "Lara," Jace nodded. "Always a pleasure." Lara's eyes shifted to Kira, assessing. "Interesting company you're keeping these days." "This is Kira," Jace introduced. Diplomatic representative I'm escorting." Lara's smile suggested she didn't believe him for a second. "Of course." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "I hear you've been asking questions about a certain director. Follow me to the private lounge. Someone wants to speak with you." She led them through a discreet door into a quieter section of the club. Inside a small, plush room, a nervous-looking Taurian sat alone, his four-fingered hands fidgeting with an expensive-looking drink. "This is Moran," Lara introduced. "He has information you might find valuable." With that, she exited, closing the door behind her. "Speak quickly," the Taurian said, his voice trembling slightly. "I cannot be seen with you for long." "What do you know about the director?" Jace asked, taking a seat opposite him. "Naomi Blackwood," Moran replied, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Former Earth intelligence operative, now runs a shadow company called Sentinel Dynamics. She's after the FTL technology being developed on Europa." "Why target me?" Jace pressed. "You have access. Connections. A ship that can slip past military blockades." Moran glanced anxiously at the door. She needed a courier who wouldn't be scrutinized too closely. Someone with a reputation for taking questionable jobs. "And the bioweapon?" "Insurance. If you were caught, the blame would fall entirely on you. If you succeeded, she would have acquired valuable technology without risking her operatives." Moran drained his drink. "She doesn't leave loose ends." Suddenly, the door slid open. Two figures entered, their hands hovering near concealed weapons. "Morgan," one of them said gruffly. "The director would like a word." Kira tensed, her legs shifting subtly into a combat stance. Jace caught her eye, giving an almost imperceptible shake of his head. "Not yet," he mouthed. Turning to the intruders, he smiled disarmingly. I'm afraid my schedule is rather full. In one fluid motion, he flung his drink into the face of the first man, temporarily blinding him. Kira exploded into action, her movements a blur as she disabled the second intruder with a precise strike to his solar plexus. The entire confrontation lasted less than 5 seconds. Behind them, a hidden panel in the wall slid open. "This way," Lara urged, gesturing to a service corridor. "Station security will be here soon." They followed her through a maze of maintenance passages until they reached a service elevator. "This will take you to the docking bay level," Lara explained. "Your ship hasn't been compromised. I checked, but you need to leave now. Blackwood has connections throughout station administration." "Thanks, Lara," Jace said. "I owe you." "Yes, you do," she replied with a thin smile. "And I'll collect someday. Now go." As the elevator descended, Jace turned to Kira with a grin. "Not bad for your first undercover operation." Kira looked slightly flustered. "I have never had to restrain myself so much during combat." "You did well," Jace assured her. "But we need to get off this station. Blackwood won't stop coming after us now." They moved quickly through the docking bay, avoiding the main thoroughfares where security would be watching. Jace's ship, the Starbound, waited in Bay 12, a compact vessel designed for speed rather than comfort, with enough modifications to make it interesting to customs officials. From his communicator, Jace activated the ship's AI to run a remote diagnostic. "Checking for sabotage," he explained to Kira. "Wouldn't put it past Blackwood to rig my ship." The AI reported 2 heat-triggered explosives attached to the engine housing. Jace neutralized them remotely before they approached the ship. The Starbound's ramp descended as they approached, and Jace ushered Kira inside. She looked around with interest at the cockpit's array of controls and displays. "First time on a ship like this?" Jace asked, sliding into the pilot's seat. "First time on any interstellar vessel," Kira admitted. "My travels have been limited to commercial transports." "Well, buckle in," Jace advised, activating the engines. "FTL jumps can be a bit disorienting the first time." They launched just as station security was alerted to the commotion at Club Paradox. The Starbound slipped away from Proxima Station, its signature masked by the departure of a larger commercial vessel. "Setting course for Europa," Jace announced once they were clear. "We need to warn Dr. Charleston about Blackwood's interest in the FTL research." During the 48-hour journey through hyperspace, Jace and Kira had time to learn more about each other. In the quiet confines of the ship, Kira gradually revealed pieces of her past. "I was exiled," she admitted, during their shared meal in the small galley. "I refused an order that violated my ethical code. My pride deemed this unacceptable." "What was the order?" Jace asked, pushing a plate of synthesized food toward her. "To eliminate a rival pride's cubs," Kira said softly. "It was politics disguised as honor. I could not comply." Jace nodded, understanding dawning. "So you've been alone, like me?" "Yes," Kira replied. "The galaxy is vast and often cold to solitary travelers." Jace shared his own story, how he'd left Earth after losing his family in the collapse, drifting from station to station, taking whatever jobs would keep his ship fueled and his stomach full. Their connection deepened with each revelation, the initial awkwardness of their arrangement evolving into something more genuine. As they approached the Jupiter system, they encountered a patrol of Earth military vessels guarding the approach to Europa. Jace tensed, running calculations for evasive maneuvers. "Wait," Kira suggested. "Perhaps deception is better than evasion. Can we fabricate a medical emergency?" Jace considered this, then nodded. "Good thinking." He opened a communication channel to the lead vessel. "Earth Patrol. This is independent vessel Starbound requesting emergency landing clearance for Europa Research Station. We have a medical situation requiring immediate treatment." Simultaneously, He adjusted the engine output to create irregular patterns that would register as a malfunction on the patrol scanners. After a tense moment, clearance was granted, with a stern warning to report to station security upon arrival. Europa's surface was a frozen wasteland, its icy crust reflecting the distant sunlight in cold, blue hues. The research station was built into the ice, with only its landing pads and communication arrays visible from above. As they descended, Jace briefed Kira on what to expect. "Temperature outside is negative 160 Celsius, he warned. "The suits in the storage locker will protect us, but don't remove any gear until we're inside." Kira nodded, examining the thermal suit he handed her. "These materials are strange," she commented, feeling the fabric between her fingers. "Latest in human thermal regulation technology," Jace explained. "Designed for extreme environments like this." They suited up and disembarked, the biting cold of Europa's surface penetrating even their insulated gear. Jace kissed the helmet before securing it over Kira's head, a gesture that seemed to surprise her. "For luck," he explained through the comm system. "We might need it. The laboratory sections are under high security, and if Blackwood has informants here, they could trigger an explosion that would crack the ice shelf." The station's security personnel met them at the airlock, their expressions suspicious beneath their visors. Jace presented his credentials and explained their medical emergency had stabilized enough for them to proceed to the research section. After a thorough identity check, they were granted temporary access passes. "Dr. Charleston is expecting you," the security officer informed them, though his tense posture suggested he had reservations. They were escorted through sterile corridors to the heart of the research facility, where Dr. Eleanor Charleston greeted them in a laboratory filled with holographic projections of engine schematics. "Jace Morgan," she said, her voice conveying both relief and concern. "Your timing is either perfect or catastrophic." "What's happening?" Jace asked, removing his helmet once the doors sealed behind them. "Naomi Blackwood has been feeding false information to Earth intelligence," Dr. Charleston explained, gesturing to a secure terminal. "She's convinced them that you're a technology spy, here to steal our FTL breakthrough. There's a station-wide alert for your arrest." "We need to," Jace began, but was interrupted by a blaring alarm. "Warning, containment breach in Sector 7, an automated voice announced. "Emergency protocols initiated. All personnel evacuate immediately." The laboratory's lighting switched to red, and sparks erupted from an electrical panel near the door. "The cooling system," Dr. Charleston gasped, rushing to a monitoring station. "Someone's overriding the safety protocols. If the pressure builds too high, the entire sector could rupture," Jace finished, already moving toward an emergency access panel. "Security override. Morgan, Echo 97. The panel recognized his voice print, a backdoor he'd installed during a previous contract job at the station. A heavy steel door slid open, revealing a corridor leading to Sector 7. "Stay here," he told Dr. Charleston. "Kira, with me." They sprinted through the corridor, the temperature dropping noticeably as they approached the cooling control room. Inside, two figures in maintenance uniforms were hunched over the central console, deliberately sabotaging the temperature regulators. "Step away from the controls," Jace ordered, his voice echoing in the frigid room. The saboteurs whirled, drawing weapons. Kira was already in motion, her thermal suit barely hindering her as she launched herself at the nearest attacker. Her claws tore through the suit material, finding vulnerable flesh beneath. The man went down with a cry of pain. Jace engaged the second saboteur, blocking a frantic punch and countering with a devastating throw that sent his opponent crashing into a bank of monitoring equipment. The computer system continued its countdown. "Critical pressure in 2 minutes. Evacuate immediately." "The manual release valve," Jace shouted over the alarms, pointing to a massive wheel mechanism on the far wall. "We need to open it to release the pressure." They waded through the thickening smoke to reach the valve. Kira gripped the wheel with her powerful arms, Straining against the frozen mechanism, Jace added his strength, and together they managed to turn it inch by agonizing inch. Suddenly, a jet of superheated steam erupted from a nearby pipe, filling the room with a scalding mist. They persisted, turning the valve until finally the pressure began to drop. The alarms gradually silenced, and the emergency lighting shifted from red to amber. They stood in the wreckage of the control room, breathing heavily, their suits partially melted from the heat. "We did it," Jace panted, leaning against the wall. "You saved a lot of lives today." Kira's orange eyes met his through her damaged visor. The debt begins to balance. Security forces stormed into the room moments later, weapons raised until they recognized Jace and Kira. Behind them came Dr. Charleston, her face flushed with relief. "You stopped them," she breathed, surveying the damage. "The station's structural integrity held?" The saboteurs were taken into custody, and a thorough investigation was launched. Evidence linking them to Sentinel Dynamics was discovered, providing the ammunition needed to pursue Blackwood through official channels. "The 17-Planet Alliance will want to prosecute," Dr. Charleston assured them as they recovered in the medical bay. Blackwood's days of operating in the shadows are numbered. Later, as they prepared to return to the Starbound, Jace received a notification on his communicator. According to Philidian custom, he read aloud, "The life debt has been fulfilled through the protection and saving of multiple lives at great personal risk." Kira stood silently, her expression unreadable. "Is that what your tradition says?" she finally asked. "Yes," Jace confirmed, watching her carefully. "Does yours differ?" "No," Kira admitted. "The debt is balanced. I am free of my obligation." "And what does Philidian tradition dictate happens after a life debt is fulfilled?" Jace asked, suddenly uncertain. Kira hesitated. "It speaks only of the debt itself, not what follows." "Well, human tradition suggests a celebration," Jace offered. "Maybe sharing another box of fries?" A rare smile touched Kira's features, transforming her face. "I would like that. With you." As they walked toward the docking bay, Jace placed a hand on Kira's shoulder. "The life debt may be settled, but perhaps we could start a new kind of debt, one of friendship, or maybe something more." In the distance, the Starbound's landing lights glowed against Europa's icy landscape. Jace looked toward his ship, then back at Kira. "The galaxy's a big place. All you need is a good ship and a good crew. Ready for the next adventure?" Kira closed her eyes briefly, tilting her head in a gesture of contentment. "As long as there are fries, I am ready for anything." Together, they walked hand in hand toward the ship, leaving behind the glittering lights of the research station and stepping into a future filled with unlimited possibilities. The Starbound lifted off from Europa's surface, a tiny speck against the vast backdrop of Jupiter's swirling storms. Inside the cockpit, Jace and Kira plotted a course away from Earth-controlled space, their next destination yet undecided. "Where to?" Jace asked, his fingers hovering over the navigation controls. Kira studied the star map, her orange eyes reflecting the holographic display. "Somewhere with good food," she suggested, a hint of humor in her voice. Jace laughed, the sound filling the small cockpit. "That narrows it down to about 10,000 planets." As the Starbound accelerated toward the jump point, Jace glanced at his unlikely companion. What had begun as a simple act of kindness, sharing a box of fries with a hungry stranger, had evolved into something neither of them could have predicted. A life debt fulfilled, a conspiracy unraveled, and now, a partnership forged in the crucible of danger and trust. The stars stretched into brilliant streaks of light as the FTL drive engaged, carrying them toward whatever adventures awaited beyond the familiar boundaries of human space. And somewhere, in that vast unknown, Jace knew they would find not just good food, but perhaps something even more valuable, a place where both of them, long accustomed to solitude, might finally belong. "Computer," Jay said, settling back in his seat. Set course for the Arcturian Nebula. I hear they have excellent potatoes. Kira's purr of approval was all the confirmation he needed.